Eze was one that come out. You pointed this out to us the other day, over the weekend. I mean, Liverpool, is it monitoring him or something like that, or asking about his situation or whatever? I
wish to be kept informed.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's brilliant.
He's so good.
Where's he play?
He's a wide forward.
Is he like mostly played in attack and mid for like Crystal Palace, like centrally?
10ish.
Yeah.
He's so good. He's unbelievable. But yeah, it feels... It's mad because if he was playing in another country, a player who's like 24 years old and has just made his international debut and is starting to go on, that be like, yeah, he makes perfect sense for Liverpool because that's the profile of player. It's just the fact that he plays in England, everyone's a bit aware of him. But it feels to me like all the top 6 sides would want him. I think he could go anywhere, and if Palace decides to sell, then it could be a battle for him. But they're about to lose Wilfried Zaha for nothing. It's like, are they really willing to lose Zaha and Eze? They haven't even got a manager yet. That's a difficult one. I mean, you would think that they would do what Dortmund did when they done Haaland and then they did Bellingham. I mean, not the same level of play, but you get me. You can't let 2 of them go at the same time.
Yeah,
I think that would be all from Palace. But I think at some point he's going to move to he's a Champions League level player. I'd like to hope. I think he'd be amazing for us. I could put him in. I think you put him in one of those 2 number 8 roles. I think he'd be brilliant.
I think his point spot on as well, because just to corroborate what was said there, from his positions played last season, he played 11 games in attack and mid, 11 centre mid, 11 as left wing, 3 as left midfield, and again, it starts to feel more and more like that's the kind of thing that they're after, isn't it? Is a lad who can go. Okay, we'll play him in midfield. If we have to, we'll play him in a more attacking situation. And again, if you need to play him in the front line, then sounds. Chloe, what do you think? Eze fan?
Yeah, big Eze fan. I remember when he first burst on the scene, obviously before the horrific injury that he had, and I was like, wow, what a player Crystal Palace have got here. He can do it all. He can score from outside the box. He's got really good link-up play. He's got a little bit of burst of pace to get past. He carries the ball really well. And it was unfortunate at the fact that he'd got called up to England and then he did like his ACL or something. And it was... As just a lover of football, I was worried for him because it's a massive injury at a really young age.
On the training ground, wasn't it? Like, I think it was one of those. Yeah. A really bad one.
And it's always a worry of how he'll come back, but he seems, as he has came back, he finally played for England the other day. But he's came back and he's done quite well. I'd still be a little bit worried on the injury front just because I am now always worried about injuries, but he's an absolute superstar, and if he played for us, I think he'd be boss.
He's been on the radar for me for a long time because of James Walcott, because obviously when he was playing at QPR, he was talking him up big time, so you sort of end up looking at him and stuff like that, don't you? And I can see why Jurgen would be interested because of the versatility and stuff. I don't think there's that much in it, to be honest. I don't know why that is, because he kind of ticks all the boxes, but it feels like he's left hand side, and I think we've kind of got the left hand side covered. Unless he moves Mac Allister maybe to the right hand side or something, you know what I mean? Or maybe they're thinking he can move to the right hand side. But just based on where he's played, I think we're kind of stopped over that side of the field.
I think I might be wrong. I think they're getting to a point with the contract as well where they might have to do something soon, whether they pay him or sell him, because they are about to lose Wilfried Zaha for nothing because they paid him and then they couldn't get rid of him. I think that's the thing for Eze. He's probably just seeing Zaha get, and I mean this with the greatest respect to Crystal Palace, like, he kind of got himself trapped there a little bit. He signed that big deal.
Yeah.
Fair play, he was on £100,000 a week and he signed the contract, but then he couldn't get out. Yeah. And there was, Arsenal wanted him and Palace held all the cards. It was like, why are we selling you? Unless there's big money involved. And I do wonder with Eze if it's a case of like, if he does put pen to paper, that unless there's like again unless you can get a release clause involved, because my thinking is, and it's what Chloe said, I do wonder if teams would like to have another look at him for a year, because he had his year and then he missed pretty much an entire campaign with a really bad knee injury, then starts coming back. I think Gareth Southgate called him up almost like a reward for like, we were going to have you in the Euros around, and then you got the injury. So I wonder if teams are going to, maybe it might be one that's like a January move for somebody.
Yeah.
But if I'm him, if I'm advising, I'll be saying, mate, do not sign that contract. Hang fire, just see what comes with, because you don't want to end up getting yourself trapped in a contract that you can't get out of.
It just feels like it's a bonus bit of business for us.
It
does feel like, I'll be honest, it feels like a very Liverpool 10 to 15 years ago kind of sign is my general thing, because I think he's really, really good, but we need English players in the squad. and there's a little bit of that. This is the kind of thing Man City do and Chelsea do, where if he's clearly good enough to play in the Premier League level, so he's got that experience, he knows the pace of the game, all that kind of stuff. But he's not so good that you've got to play him and you've got to have him in your team and all that kind of stuff. You can have him in, he'll fit in, he'll be, you'd imagine he's got the right mentality, particularly coming back after that knee injury, and to have as good a season last year as he did. He'll probably fit in with the character of the squad or whatever, yeah. And if he doesn't play, he's done a year or two at Liverpool. It's not going to harm his career by doing that. And then there'll be no shortage of suitors down the line as well.
I think he's better. I think he probably will play, I think he will get in the team. If it was, I think in midfield, one of those 8, I think he could play. I also think it's important to know, like, Jurgen's no dickheads policy. He fits that to a T. Like, if you just Google Eze, and don't need to do it now, like, all the stuff that he's done.
Well, he did a Sky Sports thing on him about 3 or 4 years ago, I think. It might have been when he first moved to Palace and what he'd done for his community and stuff. Like,
he delivers, like, he was delivering shopping in lockdown, and he was doing the food banks. Like, he still does it anonymous. Like, he didn't want to be fan, but someone mentioned, but he was like, he kept it on the down low kind of thing. So I think he also fits, like, the good guy thing. I know a few people who've come across him and work with him or met him, and they say, like, he's an absolute diamond of a fella. And that is important to Liverpool. Liverpool have got the policy for a reason, that they don't want knobheads. So whether they sign him, I think he might move this summer somewhere. It might be further down the line. But like Palace, you haven't got a manager. So if you're trying to attack the manager, the last thing you want to walk into is a team who are trying to get rid of all your best players. It might be a while where they get there and then see what's what.
He feels very Spurs, Crystal Palace, not Crystal Palace because he's there. Perfect analysis. He feels very Spurs, Aston Villa, that kind of.
I think he's better. I mean, I think Newcastle. I think would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think Man United would have him. I think that makes sense as well. I think he is really, really talented. Maybe not Man City because they're just.
My gut's saying I think he's really good, like you do. My gut's saying Liverpool don't buy him for full whack. And if he becomes available at a decent price where they feel like they're getting good business, that's when Liverpool enter it. But he's not one of their top targets.
What would you say? What would you all say was a decent price? Do you think Liverpool pushed the button on an Eze?
35.
Oh, way more. 60.
50.
Fuck off.
Honestly, I think he's brilliant.
I think 30 to 35.
I don't think you're going to get him.
You just won't get him.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I just don't. I don't see that he's a 50 to 65 million pounds.
I think that's what Palace would want, and I think someone will pay it. You're gonna, like, that's the thing now, is that, and I apologies for, like, I had Neil Jones on the show this morning on Journal Insight, and he said, like, the Newcastle Saudi Arabia thing, separately by the way, not the same club. Yeah, Newcastle and Saudi Arabia. There's two more for Premier League players. There's 2 other markets who are willing to inflate prices. Look what Chelsea are doing now. They're flogging essentially deadwood off to Saudi Arabia to help them out with the FFP stuff. Clever, but it's a thing. And like Liverpool, Newcastle wants an in for Thuram as well. Like, there's another big fish. Now, I said, like, 10 years ago, it wouldn't even be a conversation. You're supposed to Liverpool. But Newcastle are in the Champions League. They are paying big money, and they're backed with, unlimited wealth per se. So I think someone would pay. It feels like the type of signing like Newcastle would make, because it's not quite the absolute. It's not going out and buying Robinho like Manchester City did, but it's buying like your Zabalettas and your companies and really strong players who you then develop. Because Newcastle aren't in a position yet. Like, there's talking like the Neymar stuff. That's just mad. But I think that there's a level of player where you can go and get into. So we're used to battling with United, Chelsea, Arsenal, Tottenham for players. Newcastle is definitely a thing now, and that does probably add on 5 to 10 million, because there will be a Newcastle tax on all these players. Yeah. As soon as they go on the phone to Palace, yes, I'm 50.
That's when I think Liverpool don't enter them, though. That's when, because I just think they're just not beholden to going for that.
No, I understand.
It's as much actually, I think, about what wages. That's what Newcastle conversation is going to be interesting. What are they paying?
Yeah.
Like, it's not about the fees. People get lost in transfer fees, but they're not that important. It's what you're paying your guy on a week-to-week basis. That's where you get blown out the water. And again, there's been lots of conversations around the Bellingham stuff, of course, but the stuff I heard about it was just he's at 19, going into Real Madrid at Mo Salah level wages. Well, Liverpool are not that football club, and are never going to be that football club. Whereas Newcastle's and Manchester United's and Real Madrid's and PSG's and Man City's, that's where the money goes. City had that for years of going, well, we're not breaking world records for footballers, they are now, but we're not doing that. It's like, yeah, but you're playing a right back that's never played a game. you're paying him 150 grand a week just to be at your footy club. So that's where Newcastle will be an interesting thing. But we'll do a big chat about them on Bias Football Pod. We've had a super chat from David Brett Smith. Says Thuram is a monster. I would offer money plus Fabio Carvalho on loan for Eze. Do you think the nice owner could be a stumbling block selling to us?
Nice.
I'm sorry, yeah. If you shouldn't capitalise, that's why we capitalise nouns. The nice owner, parish.
I think he means good old Jim Radcliffe. He's a nice fella.
Yeah. The nice owner could be a stumbling block seller. Yeah, potentially.
Well, what it means is Nice to be on. They don't have to sell.
Yeah.
They're not skint. I mean, they're backed by a very, very rich man. Now they're a bit of a shambles, and I think that if the player wants to go, there's probably a deal to be done there. On the Eze, I mean,
that's what Liverpool are relying on, though, aren't they? Liverpool are relying on those players wanting to go to Liverpool and making it difficult for the club, and that's the exact way that Liverpool have to do things right at the moment. Because what you do, if you're the club buying and the player says you don't get into a bidding war, and Liverpool don't want bidding wars, they want the player to turn around to the football club and go, "I want to go to Liverpool, so you're gonna have to deal with them, mate." And that's how they keep their prices down. Because as soon as you get into a bidding war with Newcastle, you're not winning it anyway.
I think on the Eze thing, it feels to me like a lot of other chips have to fall to see who ends up where, and then someone's going to be left near the midfielder. It might be us, it might be Newcastle, it might be Spurs. Like, there's Maddison's and there's Declan Rice and there's Neves is going to Saudi Arabia. I think there's a lot of deals that are going to happen, and then that'll free up money for player and spaces.
Yeah.
So if he's going to go, I think that could be somewhere. It might be late on, but I to go back to Chloe's point, I do wonder if the side's thinking, you know what, give him 6 months at Crystal Palace to get the knee, get him playing footy again. And then it's a January or a next summer type of thing for someone that feels like it might be different.
I don't see him at Liverpool. I just don't. I feel like every other club that's been linked with him would go in for him before we would. And that's on price. It's also on the fact of, it just doesn't seem like a player Liverpool are after right now. It's clear that Thuram is a priority, and then after then, you've got people who are quite similar to each other. I mean, keep bringing it up, but Jude Bellingham to Ryan Gravenberch in terms of build and how they hold themselves, two very drastic different players at this moment in time. But you've got Kone, who's kind of more defensive. It felt like he is an or Thuram instead of and with Thuram. Yeah. And I don't know that there's anyone who's up there with Eze aside from Mac Allister who's already been bought.
It's in danger of stepping on. Again, it's having a part two, but the plan thing, you're right. It's what Liverpool do, and we haven't really considered too much of Liverpool's outs and how that impacts business in a week or two or a month from now.